What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel for another 1/6 scale figure related video. Right off the bat, everybody take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, guys, because this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a controversial one for a lot of people. It's been very divisive online. We're talking about the final product photos for the Anakin Skywalker Artisan by Hot Toys. I know it's going to be divisive, guys. I want to start by saying I'm not at all making this video to convince you one way or the other, so I want to say that right now. So for those of you who really hate this figure and you're not happy with it, please don't watch this video and think that I'm trying to change your opinion on it, because I'm certainly not. But what I am trying to do, though, is kind of present you with all of the facts that we have laid out in front of us. I want to show you some in-hand photos from a couple different collectors, some shots at Secret Base after this was released, and then you can kind of gauge for yourself what you can expect from this figure when you do get it in hand, and then you can kind of make your own decision there. So that is my goal here. I am not trying to convince you one way or the other, but I want to share my thoughts on it and kind of gauge how I feel about the figure based on what we have here. And if you guys know me, you know Anakin Skywalker is my favorite character of all time, not just in Star Wars. So of course, I'm going to have a bit of a bias there, and I want it to be as good as it possibly can be. Unfortunately, it's not exactly like the prototype, and we're going to see why here very shortly. But let's start by looking through the final product photos presented to us by Hot Toys. I did start with this photo in particular because I do think this is one of the better photos here. Obviously, the photographer here is kind of replicating that fight between Dooku and Obi-Wan. I think this is really cool. I do think the hair shape looks really nice here, and I actually do like the likeness on this head sculpt. I will start by saying that right off the bat. I think the head sculpt looks pretty good. Is it exactly the same as the prototype? No, it's not. There, of course, is some degradation present there. One thing that I always had issue with on all of the Anakin figures are the Jedi robes, and also particularly the tabards. I always felt like they were a bit too big in the shoulder area. I like this pose right here because it obviously pushes the shoulders closer to the tabards and kind of fills in that empty space that you get sometimes, and I think it looks pretty cool. And I know some people are going to say, oh, well, you could just pull the tabards tight down towards the knees. You can, but then it kind of makes it look a little bit too long. So I just feel like maybe they've been a little bit too oversized over the years. I'm okay with that because I did purchase a custom leather tabard 2023. I've had it since then, so I already knew this was going to be a problem for me, so I was prepared for that. But now, one of the biggest complaints, and something that of course all of us noticed, is the hair looks a decent amount darker than that prototype. We had like that much lighter brown color in the prototype, and with these final product photos, at least a lot of these photos, or a majority of them, as you can see here in this photo, the hair looks pretty dark. Now, some of these photos, it is understandable and excusable because the artist is trying to kind of replicate those Mustafar scenes, and if you do look at some shots or photos from the Mustafar scenes or Revenge of the Sith, Hayden's hair does look a lot darker, or at least the wig that he's wearing obviously looks a lot darker. So that is excusable to me, because when you have less light on brown hair, it is going to look darker in certain lighting, so I can excuse that. It's these photos in particular that really start to throw me off, because obviously what they're doing here is they're trying to replicate those behind the scenes photos where they were taking pictures of Hayden in his full getup, and that's really cool to me. But the puzzling thing is, it looks like there's plenty of light on the figure here. You can see that light on the, basically on a majority of the left side of the figure here, so kind of projecting towards the face. And again, in these photos here, the hair just looks darker. And I will say, I do think the styling is perfectly fine. I have no issues with the styling. I know it's going to be divisive. Some people are really going to crap on how the hair looks. I think it looks pretty good, especially in this shot right here. I do think these are the best shots of the bunch from the final product photos. All of these Dooku scene photos look really nice to me, and I really like this pose here as well. But that looks like Hayden Christensen to me. The hair shape looks very nice. I don't have any complaints about that. Obviously, the shade of the hair, it's not that light brown that we saw in the prototype. Another shot here that looks really nice. I think this looks awesome. No complaints about this at all. But again, some of the shots just kind of throw you off. The hair looks a little odd here because it's posed a little bit differently, kind of futs a little bit differently. You could see what I don't know. The tabards just look a bit odd to me from Hot Toys, and obviously the tailoring on the Jedi tunic's always been a little bit bizarre as well. But that's to be expected. We saw that with the prototype. Here again, the hair does look darker because you're going to have less lighting because this is one of those Mustafar style photos. The shape looks nice, as I said earlier. Yeah, I just really love these photos here. I just think it kind of makes that likeness come out with the red of the lightsaber and the light and everything coming out on the face. I think that looks pretty nice. Here, obviously, the hair looks extremely dark. And another thing I want to mention, Hot Toys has always kind of failed on their Jedi robes. I've always had an issue with them. I actually did what many other people did who owned both of the different Anakins, the dark side and the light side. I put that dark side Anakin robe on the light side Anakin because it's much bigger, so it just kind of looks more accurate to the film. And I don't know, I just feel like the Hot Toys robes just sit weird. If you guys know of anybody that does custom Jedi robes, particularly for Anakin especially, that look a lot better than the Hot Toys one, please let me know because I would love to upgrade that on mine personally. Again, these shots are the ones that really puzzle me because the hair, you would expect as more light gets put on it, it lightens up a little bit, but you don't see that in these prototype photos. It just looks a bit odd. And a lot of people obviously were seeing the lightness here, and that was kind of thrown off as well based on how the lighting looks and everything. That's not to say that the head sculpt is exactly the same because I don't want to portray that at all because there have been some changes made. One thing in particular that I noticed, and you can kind of see it here, the original head sculpt with the prototype was a one-piece design, and they have changed it over to a two-piece design, as you can see here, and you'll see in some later photos. So that's pretty interesting. I'm guessing they made that change because they didn't want collectors pulling the hair off to access those eyeballs. I can live with that. I do think that makes sense. Some of the implementations that InArt has done in particular I thought were really silly, and it kind of ruined the hair. If you weren't good at restyling hair, it really threw it off because you're kind of pulling the whole back of the rooted hair off. So I'm okay with that. I think it looks perfectly fine. And as we look at the styling of the hair here and that side angle, I think that looks really good. I think it looks like Hayden, so no complaints about that. This shot here I really like for the tailoring and everything. I think it does it justice, more justice than some of the other photos. Again, I don't hate the figure. I just think there's some confusing things looking at these final product photos. No shot at the photographer, but I feel like Hot Toys has not done the best job lately at presenting their product in these final product photos. So definitely very interesting for one that everybody was waiting so long for, and a very highly anticipated figure. The hair looks a little bit weird in this shot here, but yeah, I don't hate it, guys. I really don't. There's some concerns, obviously, like everybody else has, but I'm at the stage with these final product photos. When I first saw them, I'm like, there's some things I'm seeing that aren't perfect. There's some changes, obviously, that were made here, but I need to see more. So I'm jumping over now. I don't want to look through too many of these final product photos because there's so many of them. Jumping over now, I want to take a look at the prototype, actually, so we can kind of jump from this right back over to the prototype so you have it in your mind what to compare it to. So as we jump to the prototype here, number one, obviously, the hair here looks tremendously lighter, like tremendously lighter. You're going from like a darker brown looking color in those final product photos to a much lighter brown. Now, if you actually look at stills from the film or scenes from the film, obviously when there's more light in a scene, Hayden's hair does look like this. This color was actually pretty accurate. And again, I mentioned earlier in the Mustafar scenes, his hair does look like a darker brown. And this is just a wig, obviously. I say his hair, but it's a wig that he was wearing. But yeah, it looks like a much lighter brown here. Obviously in these photos too, there's a bit more detail around the eyes. The sculpt looks a bit more detailed than those photos we saw. Even from further back, yes, it does look a bit darker than it did in that last shot, but you could see it still looks like a much lighter color. Also, I'm noticing with this prototype that there's not as much product in the hair. I think not nearly as much product in the hair. It looks a bit looser, if that makes sense. The styling is really nice here. Obviously, this was a great prototype. This really was like kind of an unbelievable prototype. Like it was too good to be true. I think the tailoring on the outfit looks about the same though. Again, their tunics and everything kind of left a little bit to be desired. So I was ready to not be disappointed about that because I already knew what to expect from Hot Toys. But yeah, as we're looking at this, you can see the hair color is much lighter. This is a great example here. Just a much lighter looking hair color, and it's very interesting they made those changes. And again, I want you guys to take a look at the hair here as well before we move on to some more photos. You can see there is a decent amount less product in the hair, like actually way less, because there's so many loose hairs and everything throughout the hair. So as we look at this, then we jump over to some more photos, you'll kind of see what I mean. I have some better photos, but I do want to jump to some not so good photos just so you can kind of see what sent people into a frenzy even further. So I don't know who took these particular photos because they've been shared so many times, so I apologize. I have a few photos of the head sculpt actually like on the stand that's in that little container. You can see in these shots here, I don't think the sculpt looks bad here. I'm possibly in the minority. I don't know. I don't hate the head sculpt at all. I think it looks like Hayden Christensen. And for somebody who owns the two previous versions, I think this looks way more like Hayden. Is it as good as the prototype? There's been some degradation. There's been some softening. But I do think it still looks very much like Hayden Christensen. I'm sticking to that. I don't care what anybody says. That's my thought on it. But the hair here, I don't think this is a very good copy in terms of the styling at all. Also, looking at the back of the hair, it's definitely a bit too long. Now, I will say other copies I've seen have not looked quite as long, and it could be also, you know, the collector just pulled it out of the container and didn't mess with it at all and just took these photos, which seems to be what they did here. So maybe as you pull it out of the container, you can futz it a little bit, and I do think this hairstyle is going to require a lot of futzing to get it right how you want it, because it is a very unique and messy hairstyle. So I will definitely be messing with mine as much as I can without hurting the hair, obviously. Again, here, the hair looks very dark. I want to, I'll go back to the last photo. I do want to kind of draw your attention to something. As we look at these photos, look throughout the hair and see bits of lighter colored hair throughout. You can kind of see it here in this photo, even in this not so great lighting. You could see bits of lighter brown kind of scattered throughout darker strands of hair. So pay close attention to that as we look at some more photos, and you'll kind of see a pattern there. I'm going to share some photos that actually made me feel much better about the figure. This was actually a video, like a short video that was put on YouTube, and then a bunch of collectors screenshotted it just to look at the best shots from the video. Here in this photo, I really like how the hair looks, and also I think the sculpt looks awesome. Again, you might not agree with me, and that's okay. I think the hair styling looks very nice here. It is longer in the back, but it's styled more proper. It doesn't look like there's just straight strands going down. I think that looks pretty dang good. Jumping over to another angle here, I think it looks awesome. If my final product figure looked like this, I'd be pretty happy with it. I know everybody might not be happy because of the degradation that it received from the prototype, but I'd be pretty happy. Now look at this shot here. This also is very interesting because as we look here, yes, the hair color is certainly dark. So as I talk about the hair product and stuff, guys, don't think that I'm saying, oh, well, some of these copies are going to look exactly like the prototype color brown. No, it's certainly darker. But if we look at this shot here, the hair is much lighter than it looks in some of those other photos. The other photos, it looks like a dark brown, even in strong lighting. Here, you're seeing some lighter brown color, and it's pretty consistent throughout. The one thing I will say after seeing these photos is I do think there's going to be a consistency issue possibly with the color of the hair, and that I think will be dependent upon the amount of product that it has in it, because I have talked to a couple collectors who have this figure in hand, and they've also talked to employees at Secret Base, and Secret Base basically said that they had to put extra product in the hair to kind of keep the shape and shipping. And that makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, if you have brown hair like I do, and obviously like Hayden has here, when your hair gets wet, when you put gel or something in your hair, it's going to look darker. That's just what happens when you put water or like gel or something in your hair. So it makes sense if they loaded this hair with product. Even obviously the brown shade is not exactly the same. It's going to look even darker if your copy has a ton of product in it. So that is very interesting that a couple people have commented on that. I want to jump over to some more photos here. These are photos from Secret Base after the release. I do think in some of these shots, the hair does look like it has some light brown to it. It's not super dark. It depends on the angle, of course, and obviously the lighting here is completely awful. So pay no mind to that. That is Secret Base 101. Their lighting is always terrible. It's always great to see shots of the figures early, but just know the lighting's always bad. As you get closer up here on this particular version, you do see some lighter brown hair. So it might just be me coping, I don't know, but as I'm looking at it, guys, it does look lighter to me. So though it's not the prototype, it's not that super dark brown that we're seeing in the other photos like I mentioned earlier. So that gives me hope that it's not exactly how it looks in certain photos, which is cool to me because I was very, very let down by seeing like super dark black hair. So there might be a bit of a silver lining there. I don't think these photos at all paint the sculpt in a good light. The light's very blown out. You can see it's also blurry. The eyeballs there's a lot of blur to them. So I pay no mind to the lightness in these particular photos because it doesn't paint it in a good light. I want to share a video here. I do apologize. This is a Facebook reel, so I can't zoom into it. This is actually another collector videoing the figure at Secret Base. Again, I do see the hair looking a bit lighter here, which is nice. I want to read something in particular. The actual collector commented in this post saying, The hair color and styling in person looks good, and the staff there has mentioned, talking about at Secret Base, that more hair product was deliberately used for transportation and told me to use a toothpick or something to loosen it slightly after unboxing. Obviously, the transportation thing was mentioned to me by a couple other collectors, but the toothpick thing, that's my first time seeing that. I'm sure it does work. Just be very careful when you're doing that. I love toothpicks. I use them for a lot of 1/6 scale stuff. If you've seen some of my videos, you often see me using toothpicks because I feel like they're obviously not a super hard material because it's wood, so you're not scratching up your figure if you're careful. So I could see it working. Me personally, I think my plan of attack, because there's so much product in the hair, I'm probably going to take like a makeup brush like I always do and put a little bit of water on it, try to reactivate that product and maybe kind of thin out that product a little bit so it doesn't look quite as dark in certain areas. I guess, of course, also it does depend on your particular copy. I guess that just remains to be seen, though. We have to see what Hot Toys gives us. I do want to jump over to one more group of photos that I think also paints the figure in a pretty solid light, so give me 1 second. So here we have some shots from 1/6 Lovers on Instagram. Big shout out to 1/6 Lovers. This dude is the man. He always has early photos, quick unboxings right when these figures drop and release in Hong Kong. So big shout out to 1/6 Lovers. I will put a link in the description for his Instagram. I highly recommend following him. So here's some photos here taken by 1/6 Lovers. I think the head sculpt looks really nice here, and as you zoom in, the photos are actually so high res. You could see the spotting and everything on the skin. I think we had a lot of comments over on Facebook of people saying the sculpt looks super soft without any details. These photos here kind of beg to differ. You know, I think there is a lot of detail in this head sculpt, and you can kind of see it all throughout the skin texture and everything, a little mole on the chin and on the face. I think that the paint job is very nice. In these photos here, of course, it depends on the copy, but I do think 1/6 Lovers copy, the hair doesn't look as nicely styled as that one copy that we looked at with the lightsaber in the photos, but it doesn't look bad. I just think it's not the best example that we've seen thus far. There's a lot more photos, so I'm going to go through them. You can kind of see here at this angle, I'm not a huge fan of how that part of the hair in particular is looking. I'm sure 1/6 Lover is going to style this. He obviously just put up these photos, took the best photos he could in a certain amount of time, so that's no dig at 1/6 Lover. That's probably how it came out of the box. But I think the head sculpt looks phenomenal here. Again, I might be dying on that hill by myself, but I love the head sculpt. I think it looks very good. It's not the prototype, but I think it's very good, and it's much better than the old versions for sure. Really great shots, though, from 1/6 Lover. Here's a shot in particular that I want to pay close attention to. As I mentioned earlier, you could see there's actually a decent amount of product all throughout the hair. You could see the lighter strands popping through, and then as you have more product and the hair looks more solid, it gets darker. So again, it does depend on your copy. I really think this is going to be a case-by-case basis, unfortunately. Hopefully, and I highly doubt it, Hot Toys might make some last-minute changes when it comes to the amount of product in the hair. I'm not going to hold a candle to the flame, but you get what I'm saying. I would love to see some changes. Likeness, once again, looks awesome on this head sculpt. The hairstyling, I would mess with it if this is my copy in particular. This is really cool. 1/6 Lover actually put the new Darth Maul eyeballs on here to make a dark side Anakin, and this looks amazing, and I saw a lot of people just like gushing over this, so great idea from 1/6 Lovers there. This just makes me want an Artisan dark side Anakin even more because it just looks so freaking good. Yeah, these shots are great. But yeah, really awesome concept here. I really hope that we do get that Artisan from Hot Toys because I would definitely be picking that up to go with my other dark side Anakin. So I just kind of jumped through the photos quickly there. But yeah, great shots here. It really paints the sculpt in a good light, even in this darker lighting here to have that Sith version. It looks really cool. But guys, that's actually going to wrap it up. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Did you pick this figure up? Do you have it on pre-order? Are you considering canceling it? Again, this video is not at all to convince you one way or the other. I just kind of wanted to present you with everything that we have available right now to us, just so you can kind of better make your personal decision. I'm not going to be canceling mine. Hopefully, I'll get a waitlist conversion if some people cancel theirs, because I would love to get a second one, potentially. I don't have it on pre-order with Sideshow because I did miss, so I did buy it overseas. But yeah, guys, it has changed from the prototype. We always see degradation from Hot Toys. It's not perfect. There are some issues with it, but I personally, and again, this is me, so please don't run to the comments and say, screw you, I hate this. Well, you can say it, but, you know, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I think it looks pretty good still. It's just not what we expected from that prototype, because that prototype was just so good. So I think it's gone from like an 11 to like a 9 or an 8.75, you know? Like, it's still very good. It just a little, of course, disappointing for some people because it's not exactly what everyone expected, but I'm still very happy. I'm a happy camper. As a big Anakin fan, this is going to have a very special place in my collection. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Share your thoughts. Be civil. I know you guys always are, so I shouldn't have to tell you this. And you're all adults, but be civil. Of course, there might be some debates in the comments, but you guys, I trust you. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments down below. See ya.